It was supposed to be a routine stop. Flashing lights, a stern officer, and a standard check. But within minutes, everything spiraled out of control. A police sergeant found himself on his knees, surrounded by a crowd, every second captured by dozens of phone cameras. What started as one officer's arrogance and another man's humiliation was about to ignite a chain of events that would destroy a career and change lives forever. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning in the small town of Brookside, where life moved at a slower, more predictable pace. The sun was shining, the streets were calm, and the day seemed like any other. Sergeant David Monroe, a 45-year-old veteran of the police force, was on his way to a meeting at the department. He drove a reliable black sedan his wife had given him for their anniversary, a car he cherished not for its flash, but for its sentimental value. The radio played softly as David navigated the quiet streets, his thoughts on the agenda awaiting him at headquarters. Everything seemed fine until the sudden wail of a police siren shattered the calm. Glancing in his rearview mirror, David saw the flashing blue lights of a patrol car closing in. His stomach sank, not because he had done anything wrong, but because he knew this was likely going to be one of those encounters. Behind the wheel of the patrol car was Officer Travis Reed, a 28-year-old rookie fresh out of the academy. Recently transferred to Brookside, Travis was the kind of officer who believed in making an impression. He was eager, overly confident, and always on the lookout for an opportunity to assert his authority. When he saw David's sedan, a car he didn't recognize from his patrols, Travis had already decided it was suspicious. Travis motioned for David to pull over with sharp, exaggerated gestures. David complied, pulling to the curb, his mind already preparing for what might come next. As Travis swaggered up to the driver's side window, his demeanor screamed superiority. He leaned down, his sunglasses glinting in the sunlight. "Do you know why I stopped you?" Travis asked, his tone clipped and commanding. His eyes flickered over David with an air of suspicion, as though he were already convinced of wrongdoing. David met Travis's gaze, calm but direct. "No, officer, I'm sure you're about to tell me." The response didn't sit well with Travis, who straightened up, puffing out his chest. "Let's see your license and registration," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. He glanced at the car, then back at David, his expression hardening with disdain. David nodded, keeping his movements slow and deliberate as he reached for his wallet. "By the way," he said evenly, "I'm with the police department. My badge is in my pocket if you'd like to see it." For a brief moment, Travis froze. Then, recovering quickly, he smirked. "Oh, really? Everyone's a cop when they're in trouble. Next, you'll be telling me you're the mayor." David didn't react to the provocation. Instead, he calmly produced his badge, holding it out for Travis to examine. The younger officer leaned in, squinting at it, then sneered. "Is this from a Halloween costume? Looks fake to me." By now, a few pedestrians had begun to take notice. They slowed down, their curiosity piqued by the interaction. David remained composed, though his patience was wearing thin. "Officer Reed," he said, his voice steady but firm, "I'm not here to argue with you, but I suggest you take a closer look at that badge." Travis wasn't listening. "Step out of the vehicle," he barked, his voice louder now, drawing more attention from the growing crowd. David sighed, muttering under his breath, "Here we go." He opened the car door and stepped out, his movements controlled, his expression unreadable. Travis circled him like a predator sizing up its prey, the smirk never leaving his face. "Turn around and place your hands on the car," he ordered, his tone almost gleeful. David hesitated, locking eyes with Travis. "Are you sure you want to do this?" he asked quietly. Travis's smirk widened. "Oh, I'm sure. Now do what I said." Reluctantly, David complied, placing his hands on the roof of the car. The murmurs of the crowd grew louder, and more phones appeared, their cameras pointed at the unfolding scene. Travis patted David down with unnecessary force, his hands lingering too long as though searching for something, anything, that might justify the escalating drama. "Got nothing, huh?" Travis muttered, clearly annoyed when his search turned up empty. "You're too calm, buddy. That's suspicious." David turned his head slightly, his voice calm but cutting. "You really don't know who I am, do you?" Travis ignored him, motioning for David to kneel. "Get on your knees," he commanded, loud enough for the crowd to hear. This is standard procedure for potentially dangerous individuals. David hesitated again, the humiliation of the moment cutting deep. Slowly, he lowered himself to the pavement, the weight of the crowd's stares heavy on him. Phones continued to record, capturing every second. A few murmurs of disbelief rippled through the onlookers, some whispering to each other, others openly voicing their outrage. From the back of the crowd, a voice rang out. "Hey, that's Sergeant Monroe." A man in a sharp suit pushed his way to the front, his face a mix of disbelief and anger. "You're harassing one of the most respected officers in this town. Do you have any idea what you're doing?" The crowd erupted into louder murmurs, their disbelief turning to indignation. Travis froze, the color draining from his face. His gaze darted between David, the man in the suit, and the cameras recording every second of the encounter. For the first time, his confidence faltered. David rose slowly, dusting off his knees. He didn't need to say anything. The shift in power was palpable. Travis opened his mouth, desperate to salvage the situation. "If you're really a sergeant, why didn't you say so earlier? We're in the middle of a serious operation here." David raised an eyebrow, his tone calm but cutting. "A serious operation? You've been operating your ego, officer." Before Travis could respond, the screech of tires announced the arrival of another patrol car. Lieutenant Greg Mason stepped out, his expression dark as he took in the scene. He looked at David, at Travis, and then at the murmuring crowd. His face hardened. "Sergeant Monroe," Mason said, addressing David with a curt nod. "Are you all right?" David crossed his arms, his face unreadable. "I'm fine, Lieutenant, but this officer seems to have forgotten what serving and protecting actually means." Mason's jaw tightened as he turned to Travis. "Reed, do you realize what you've done? This isn't a mistake. This is career suicide." Travis stammered, his voice losing its bravado. "Sir, he didn't identify himself properly, and I thought—" "Stop," Mason interrupted, his voice low and firm. "The more you talk, the worse this gets." The crowd began to clap, some cheering as they realized the tables had turned. Phones were still rolling, capturing every moment. Travis looked like he wanted to disappear, but Mason wasn't finished. "Reed, you're done here. Head back to the station. Write up your report, and don't leave until I tell you." Travis muttered something under his breath as he slinked back to his patrol car. As he drove away, the crowd began to disperse, but not before a few more phones captured close-ups of David. Within days, the footage went viral. News outlets picked up the story, and Travis's name became synonymous with poor judgment and unchecked arrogance. For David, the incident was more than just a personal victory. It was a reminder of the systemic issues still plaguing the profession he had dedicated his life to. As he sat in his office a week later, scrolling through the endless commentary online, he felt a mix of emotions: anger, exhaustion, and a quiet determination. This wasn't just about one bad cop. It was about something much bigger, something that needed to change.